Welcome to the third webinar in this series of short webinars by Iosecure. If you're rejoining us following webinars 1 and 2, welcome back. For the past 25 years, Iosecure has been providing IT network, security, and consulting services to a broad range of public and private sector customers from their base in British Columbia, Canada. My name is Kareen Sharp, and I'm thrilled to be your moderator for this three-part webinar series called Ogres and Onions, Peeling Back the Layers of IT Security. Today, I'm joined by Tom Jacoby, President and Managing Partner at Iosecure, and Derek Dodds, Practice Lead at Iosecure. Today's topic is navigating the swamp, how to build an IT security roadmap. Welcome back to you both.
Thanks, Green. Happy to be back.
Thanks. I am too.
Perfect. Well, as usual, we usually do a quick recap. Our goal with this webinar series is to shed light on some crucial elements of the IT security and provide practical advice to help our audience improve their security environment. In our first session, we talked about the security mindset and the importance of business objectives. In our second session, it was called Taming the Dragon, Why IT Security is a Team Effort. Tom, I'll start with you again. Can you remind us about the key roles in IT security and how that brings us to today's topic?
Of course. The bottom line is that security is part of everyone's job, and security leadership needs to come from the top. In particular, we talked about the first 3 steps in our security hygiene checklist, which are governance, about assigning roles and responsibilities to support accountability, regardless of how large or small the organization is. Policies, which is about matching the business goals with the right security priorities. Data inventory, which is about taking stock of the data we actually have and where it is. This last part leads directly to our conversation today, which will focus on making decisions about what kind of security posture we need to have as an organization and how we measure success on the journey.
Well, that's a fantastic summary. Thanks, Tom. So let's jump in, Derek. How does a senior leader or IT manager in an organization decide how secure they need to be?
Thanks, Kareen. This is a really important question to address for 2 reasons, which we've touched on before, but they're especially relevant here. The first is, even though we start from a prevention mindset, part of the prevention is being prepared. The second is, not all data has the same value. Not everything needs to be locked down like Fort Knox, and most people can't afford it anyway, either financially or from a business process perspective. Having a solid understanding of what data you have can help people to be deliberate about addressing the biggest risks first. This will deliver a much more successful security strategy that are applying the same level of effort to everything.
Exactly. Every security measure creates some degree of friction for the end user in the business. If we're going to impose friction on an organization to secure something, we might turn the dial up to 4 on some types of data, 6 on others, and we might need to crank all the way up to 11 for the most valuable data. Whatever we do, we want to make sure it's the right security posture for the business. And it's usually a team discussion when choosing that appropriate posture.
Those are all excellent points. Derek, you mentioned business processes. Can you expand on that a little, please?
Of course. Security solutions need to fit with business process because in the end, every organization is made up of people. If security solutions overcomplicate something, the whole system becomes cumbersome and people will find a way to work around it. This is a huge part of why we prefer to start by elevating the conversation to the 50,000-foot view to ensure we're developing the right solution for the right problem.
I'm reminded of a very security-conscious client we work with. They had a firewall system configured with literally 1 million rules. As you can imagine, this led to performance issues within their organization, both from a change management perspective, and also the firewalls ran slow, which compromised the performance of the company's key offerings. We worked with the customer to document and implement a practical security policy. The company was able to dramatically reduce their rule set and implement the changes within minutes instead of months, because we were able to agree on what the important data was and what policies were important to protect it.
That brings us back to our theme a little and reminds me of a theme from that first Shrek movie when Princess is trying to remove an arrow from Shrek. And Shrek said, "What you are doing is the opposite of help."
Exactly. An unfortunate side effect was because the firewalls were running so slow, in the interim, they had to buy much more expensive firewalls to process the rule sets.
Well, okay then. If an organization has taken an inventory of their data, classified it, and decided what level of protection it needs, what do they do next, Tom?
This is both the easiest and the hardest question for us to answer. So many customers are keen to know what tools or software they should use. But the truth is, just like the data inventory and classification steps, organizations need a baseline understanding of the measures they have in place.
Okay, I'm with you. Derek, can you help us explore how this conversation unfolds?
Yes, this component is really about planning. You can't get to where you need to be if you don't know where you're at. Once you've done the homework to understand the data and what level of protection it requires, we need to know where the gaps are. Even the smallest organizations have some security measures in place already. For example, their email accounts and laptops are password protected. Larger organizations have more complex policies, such as firewall rules around what types of files are allowed through or which IP addresses are blocked. Like the one Tom mentioned earlier, who had 1 million firewall rules. A common question businesses ask is, how do I protect my system from ransomware? Or how do I know I'm secure? This is a challenging question when we don't know the existing security environment. We look at it a little differently and ask, what measures do we have now, and are they protecting the right things at the right level? We can answer with a lot more confidence following a baseline security assessment and policy review.
To build on Derek's last point, this is also where compliance comes into play. Organizations in various industries have regulatory and contractual obligations. Meeting these obligations start with knowing what data you have and where it is located, then shifts to being able to demonstrate you've applied the right policies and tools to safeguard it, and being able to report on it as needed. For example, we worked with the CEO of a startup company developing a new product in the financial service sector. They have specific regulatory obligations to meet, as well as public trust concerns. They know that if there's a breach in the early years of doing business, they're in trouble. Likewise, we have a large customer who works in the gaming space. A breach could result in significant financial losses and damage to public trust. On the other hand, some organizations may only be embarrassed or inconvenienced by a security event, but they might still have legal obligations relating to cybersecurity reporting. For example, many insurance policies or vendor contracts have cybersecurity clauses. It's all about a balanced approach and compliance.
Like any journey, the hardest part is the first step, and we're here to help. Bringing it back to our onion analogy, security is a journey and can be simplified by addressing it in layers. Did you know that if you slice the root of an onion last, it won't make your eyes water as much?
I did not know that. So it is a bit like security. If you approach it in the right way, it's a lot easier to manage. So much of what we talked about is foundational. Strategic thinking and homework happen well before any talk about tactical solutions, like firewalls or multi-factor authentication.
Exactly. Like ogres, though, homework isn't all bad. It lays the foundation for an appropriate security policy for the organization and ultimately supports the business objectives.
Team, that feels like a great place to start wrapping up. The process of conducting a security assessment might be uncomfortable to some organizations. Is that something you can help them out with?
Of course. I encourage people to visit the Iosecure website, where they can learn more about what we do and book an appointment to speak with us.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom, Derek, and Mike for being part of our overall 3-part webinar series. It has been my pleasure to be moderator of this webinar series with you. If you just joined us for this session, I invite you to check out webinars 1 and 2, called Back to Basics, A New Way of Understanding IT Security, and Taming the Dragon, Why IT Security is a Team Effort. We hope you've gained a new perspective and gleaned some practical advice you can use in your work environment. And of course, if you have any further questions, the team at Iosecure would be happy to connect with you. You can visit their website at www.iosecure.com or reach out to our sales team at contact@iosecure.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and take care.